Cairo's grand victory. The people of the south cheered enthusiastically, but far away, in the capital of Cairo, it was different. Did you hear the news? What? I heard that the Hector kingdom crossed the border and attacked the southern front. According to the merchants coming from the south, the situation was bad. I was worried that I could be conscripted for it. Men who aren't yet in their 50s should perform their national duties in case of an emergency, remember? Even if the Kronos Empire attacks, nothing will happen, so why would we be called if Hector attacks? They can't raise taxes just for the war budget. How can this country not have a peaceful day? If I had been born a member of the Kronos Empire, I wouldn't have been this anxious. The plight of a small country is truly pitiful. They only murmured over a passing conversation at that time, and they continued to live a normal life that was no different from other days. But they didn't know that the Hector kingdom crossed the border with 10,000 troops, and Cairo's hero was born in a very unfavorable situation when the rear positions were captured. If they knew that Roman Dmitri defeated Butler, the 5-star swordsman, they would have been more shocked. Yet that news didn't reach the capital. When people were spending their normal days at that time, a gust of wind from the south was slowly approaching the capital. At that time, on the same day, in Cairo Royal Academy's Class D, the last practice match was being held for the swordsmanship test. Next up, William Castro and Lauren Dimitri. The professor called the students. In an instant, joy and happiness were divided. William Castro burst into laughter with confidence, while Lauren Dimitri sat alone thinking. William Castro was infamous in Class D. With a promotion to Class C almost confirmed, Lauren Dimitri knew that he had no chance of winning here. But what could he do? The professor had called for the two, and if he didn't go through, he would be expelled. Start. The signal was given. William Castro rushed ahead as if waiting for it. He was confident he could win this battle. Lauren Dimitri was unable to react to the opponent's attacks. It was a one-sided fight. Lauren Dimitri was busy defending against the wooden sword, which attacked him from all directions, and William Castro showed off the swordsmanship he had learned. William Castro was as a giant compared to Lauren. Knowing he was going to win, he began swinging his sword back and forth at Lauren. Then, seeing him groan and clutch his back, William Castro mumbled in a low voice so the professor wouldn't hear. Retard. The wooden sword pierced his back. It was the attack that ended the match. Lauren Dimitri, who had been unilaterally toyed with for 5 minutes, screamed and fell to the ground. He couldn't raise his head. William smirked and stepped back. Lauren couldn't look up at William, but he knew his friends were cheering. The humiliation didn't end there. Announcing the duel's result, the professor spoke in a cold voice. Lauren Dimitri, what did I say in the last class? Your biggest problem is that you do not have the mindset of a swordsman. It is like a guy who entered the academy to learn the sword and decides to close his eyes before even looking at the opponent's sword. Pathetic. If the test shows the same performance as today, it would be better to prepare to head down to Class E. Class E was for those who were under the age of 15. If that happened, it would be obvious how people would look at the 18-year-old Lauren. He clenched his fists. Lauren Dimitri didn't have the courage to scream or the strength to get up. The duel was over. Lauren, who was relaxing outside the class, held his breath while William and his party enter. Lauren is here, they said. I mean, it is amazing. I had a chance to meet the Class S senior in the past, and Rodwell Dimitri Sr. was so amazing to watch that I admired him. At that time, I wasn't so familiar with the world, so I thought the Dimitri family was all great. But so what? For that, there is a limit to being born in the world. People call it a miracle that someone like Rodwell Dimitri was born into the Dimitri family. The truth is, it is quite natural to go back and forth from the bottom like that. Isn't that right? There is nothing we can do with the limitations of birth, but it is like trying to do something we cannot. Lauren bowed his head. He acted as if he couldn't hear him. It was like this every time. Being Rodwell's younger brother, the shadow was thick. Lauren Dimitri had a fragile personality, and couldn't say anything since he entered the academy. No fun. I know. Was it because he lost interest? The topic changed. But is it true that Roman Dimitri defeated Homer? I assure you that it has to be a rumor spread by the Dimitri family itself. Dimitri is a descendant of a wealthy family that rose to power. How would they deal if the eldest was famous for being a jerk? His reputation would have to be so bad that they would need to spread rumors. Two miracles do not happen in one family. Look, you can tell by looking at Lauren Dimitri. Again, the arrow of comparison continued to fly. It was always the same. The third son of Dimitri, Lauren Dimitri gulped back his emotions. It was a hard day for Lauren Dimitri. The class ended, and Lauren Dimitri went out into the streets. If he didn't breathe fresh air, it felt like his emotions would explode. Is the news about Brother Roman true? Roman Dimitri's shocking actions were known even in the capital. Defeating Homer at the age of just mid-20s was staggering, and people said a new miracle was born within the Dimitri family. The problem was that Lauren Dimitri, of the same blood, couldn't accept it. Contrary to popular opinion, some people were saying that Roman could be stronger than what the rumors said, but thinking about the past, he was sure that couldn't be the case. Dimitri's fool, it wasn't a nickname given for nothing. At least, it was what Lauren Dimitri remembered of his brother, who lived without a worry about the world. I remember that Brother Roman isn't a bad person, at least not to me. Ha! He sighed. And it was then that, from afar, people flocked, making a commotion. Whisper. What is happening? He wanted to forget his complicated thoughts at that moment. As he stepped through the crowd, people lined up on either side, waiting for someone. Is that really true? I am sure. My relatives live in the south, and they miraculously defeated them and reclaimed the south when it almost got taken by the Hector kingdom. Do you know what is even more insane? In the process, Roman Dimitri did really absurd things. Roman Dimitri? The youngest ranker who defeated Homer? Yes, it is still unconfirmed, but there is a saying that he defeated the Hector kingdom with just 200 troops. Not only that, there are testimonies that he defeated Butler, the 5-star swordsman of Hector, in the Battle of Great Warriors, but I didn't believe that yet as it sounded surreal. The people around him were saying things. Lauren's eyes widened. He heard about the war with Hector. The academy had many kids from noble families, and he overheard them when they were talking. But even though he defeated the Hector kingdom, the details were too shocking. Is it true that they are talking about the Brother Roman that I know? Brother Roman defeated the Hector kingdom with just 200 troops, and as if that wasn't enough, he also defeated Butler of the Hector kingdom? This is too much. The rumors were exaggerated. Defeating Homer itself was unbelievable. Meanwhile, hearing the news from the south, Lauren Dimitri didn't know how to react. He was shocked. Get out of the way! They are the heroes of the south! Open the way! The reason people flocked was to welcome the triumphant soldiers. At the sight of the guards raising their voices while walking in front of them, the people were cheering. Among the people walking, Lauren felt too dumbfounded. Until his eyes widened at the sight of a man moving ahead in the front on a stylish horse. Brother Roman? Roman Dimitri appeared in front of his eyes with cheers from people who looked very different from his own memories. A grand feast celebrating Roman's return was prepared. Even the nobles had given up all their pride, wanting to get Roman on their side. Roman Dimitri, I finally get to see you. I greet His Majesty. The nobles opened up a path for him. Even though he was a puppet king, they weren't stupid enough to be rude to the king in a place with so much attention. I wanted to express my sincere gratitude on behalf of the Cairo kingdom. You showed the will of Cairo against the Hector kingdom. You defeated Hector with daring courage and brought peace back to us. Is there anything you wish for? I will make sure to grant whatever you want to the best of my ability. It was time for a reward. It was the authority of a king, and everyone's attention was focused on Daniel Cairo's words. Before Roman Dimitri could speak, Daniel Cairo added, At the same time, the position of deputy commander for the Royal Knights is vacant. If you wish, I wouldn't mind granting you the title and giving you access to the royal treasury. You can take the wealth from there, or if you want, you can learn the knowledge of Cairo that has been kept for generations. What do you think?" At those words, the hall turned cold. Daniel Cairo's words suggested that he had the intention of taking Roman in, and the nobles could no longer smile. To be given the title of Deputy Commander of the Royal Knights was a huge honor. Granting the position to someone still in their 20s has never happened before in the history of Cairo. Daniel Cairo said, "The best sword of Cairo is the Commander of the Royal Knights. Count Nicholas is looking for someone to succeed him. It would be an amazing chance for you. Even now, you have a talent that shines brighter than anyone else's. If you lead from ahead, you will be able to reach higher ground. There is no need to worry about fulfilling your national duty. Aside from the rewards, I intend to specifically waive your remaining obligations." He took over the throne at a young age due to his father's death. The nobles of the central government welcomed him and used him as a puppet for their benefit. That was their reason for treating him respectfully. Daniel Cairo was greedy for the first time. "I want to make Roman Dmitri my vassal." The heads of the central government, like Marquis Benedict, started to put pressure on the king as soon as he acted as if he could be treated like a subordinate. The king felt like he was being suffocated. Cairo's people considered him their absolute ruler, but in reality, he was something else. Roman Dmitri defeated Butler, a 5-star swordsman. If I could take a person as strong as Count Nicholas as my vassal, even nobles wouldn't be pressing me in haste. From then on, the situation can be reversed. People call me the feeble and weak king, but I refuse to live like this forever. After this war, he began to think differently. Seeing the nobles take care only of themselves, even at the cost of the kingdom, he thought this wasn't right. He removed his weak side and bared his teeth for the first time. Right then, Marquis Benedict's angry voice could be heard. "No one would consider the duty given as a reward. Your Majesty, the Royal Knights, as a military organization, are directly under the royal family. Are you going to force the young talent with a guaranteed future to sacrifice all that? Please take it into consideration. We need to reward our hero." "I agree. I am fine with opening the royal treasury, but this isn't right." Objections were heard in the hall. The nobles of the central government stepped forward. Each of them added words, saying that Daniel Cairo's words weren't right. As the nobles speculated, Roman might not be pleased with this proposal. However, since he already said it, he wasn't going to take it back. "Marquis Benedict, I said what I wanted. From now on, it is up to Roman Dmitri to decide what he wants." He crossed the line. The king decided to stand his ground, unlike his usual self. For a moment, Marquis Benedict's expression distorted, but Daniel Cairo didn't mind and looked at Roman. Everyone looked at him. If Roman said he would follow Daniel Cairo, the Cairo kingdom would fall into chaos and terror. The king's proposal was surprising. Daniel Cairo, whom Roman remembered as a feeble king, looked at him with unwavering eyes. Still, is it because of his royal blood? The public's opinion of Daniel Cairo as a fragile king might be far from the truth. He had no choice but to bow his head under pressure ever since he was young and was labeled weak. There was finally a chance to change this. "But there is no reason for me to take the side of the Cairo royal family," so Roman said. "This war made me realize that the world is wide. The Royal Knights is an honorable organization for a swordsman, but before I decide on my future, there are things I want to do." "What could they be?" Daniel asked. It was an obvious refusal. Daniel Cairo didn't hide his feelings. "After the war, I realized that I'm just a frog in a well. If I get out of our country and go into the world, I'd be a nobody. That is why I need time to prepare myself before I go into a larger world. Once my preparations are complete..." He raised his head. Purple aura covered his whole body. He spoke of his future plans to those who were watching him. "I will be challenging the open ranking competition of the Cairo Kingdom. I'd like to challenge rank number 99 to 1, to fully test my limits." Public ranking. At those words, everyone's eyes trembled. "The public ranking match?" Yes? The public ranking represents an endless challenge that tests one's limits. You duel until you lose, and the place where you finally kneel is your ranking. The problem is that this isn't something to talk about lightly. The more one tests the limit, the more intense the fights become, and you might lose your life. Who would want to be a victim of the public ranking? Everyone wanted to avoid endless challenges. Nevertheless, Roman Dimitri's declaration showed how confident he was. Even if he is in a situation where he can enjoy wealth and fame, he would want to give everything up to take on the new challenge. Daniel Cairo admired Roman Dimitri even though there wasn't much of an age difference between them. Although he hadn't yet fully experienced the world, Roman Dimitri took a different step. As expected from the hero of Cairo. You made a great decision. With this, the ranking in Cairo will change. You are now a man known as the one who defeated Butler of the Hector Kingdom. Who can stop you now? I am already looking forward to it. The nobles responded with interest. Roman turned down the offer to become a royal knight, but at the same time, he wanted to prove his worth. However, that wouldn't stop them. And Roman is still in his mid-20s. We can find out his true level through the public ranking. It would be an open competition, and Roman took advantage of it. He raised his value and ignited the competitive spirit of those who coveted him. Roman said, "In the near future, I will present myself in front of everyone, and then I will decide on what to do next." At that, everyone accepted it immediately. Daniel Cairo, who offered him a position in the Royal Knights, and the other three nobles believed that the ambiguous answer was directed at them. However, there was no truth to that. When the public ranking matches were done, Roman Dimitri would not be someone's sword, but he would be someone who would play the lead. Marquis Benedict called Roman after the party. Marquis Benedict, who was already slightly drunk, poured him a glass of alcohol and asked, "Life sure is full of surprises. I sent you to the southern front, wanting to take care of you, but the Hector Kingdom had declared war. Surprisingly, you stopped it and turned into a hero." Roman held the glass which was already full. Roman drank it while looking at Marquis Benedict. "Thanks for the great experience." "Great experience?" "Yes. Through the war with the Hector Kingdom, I learned that the world I knew wasn't everything, so I decided to do the public ranking matches to test how strong I am in the Cairo Kingdom. When I am finally convinced that there is no one above me, I want to be the best on the continent. The best on the continent, a dream tailored for your age." He took another sip. Marquis Benedict also once dreamed of being the best. However, the continent was a place full of monsters beyond his imagination, and the day he faced reality, he decided that he would live a nice life in the Cairo Kingdom. He stopped his childish dream of becoming the best when he attained a position and gained power in the central government. Although he didn't live a decent life, he was still considered someone with great power in Cairo. Marquis Benedict said, "I have one daughter. Because her mother died really young, I put in even more effort into raising her. I will give my daughter to you." He put down his glass. Anyone who knew Marquis Benedict realized that the meaning of those words wasn't light. Roman got surprised hearing these words. "I told Fabius that you are not naive. Listening to your accomplishments and the way you spoke about going to fights in front of so many, I was reminded of the monsters of the continent I met when I was young. I am sure of it. I am not born with great abilities as others are, but at least I have the ability to recognize that the guy named Roman Dimitri will be comparable to them. I know you had a broken engagement. I wouldn't have proposed the marriage without knowing it. Neither do I intend to force you on my daughter. However, it means that I am willing to arrange the meeting so the two of you can meet, and if it works, move ahead." He was drinking too much. Hearing the news that Butler had been defeated, Roman's status changed. "I will not ask you to meet my daughter right now. As I said before, you will need plenty of time to move ahead. As always, I, Marquis Benedict, will have your back. If you take my hand and say that you will side with me in the future, you will get everything you want in the Cairo Kingdom." Marriage to the Benedict family meant that he could inherit the powers of the house, and it proved how Marquis Benedict's desire for Roman was strong. With that, the drinking talks ended. Marquis Benedict's proposal had one clear conclusion. Roman Dmitri. Whoever possesses him will be devouring the Cairo kingdom. His existence disrupted the balance of power. Perhaps the thoughts of other nobles weren't much different. Roman was contacted by Count Gregory and Count Denver afterward. The offers of the forces that divided the Cairo kingdom were great. Daniel Cairo offered the position of deputy commander of the Royal Knights. Marquis Benedict proposed marriage. And the offers of Count Gregory and Denver were equally convincing. Both offers were extravagant. People thought Daniel Cairo's proposal was shocking, but when they looked at the whole picture, the other three nobles put everything on the line. Roman was that strong. However, Roman Dmitri, who is also the heavenly demon, Baek Junghyuk, was a person who cannot live under someone. Roman's accommodation in the capital was extravagant. The royal family and the nobles in the central government paid extra attention to it. Thus, Roman and his men were able to stay in a good place with their help. And when he finally arrived, Hans greeted Roman. "Young master!" He was the same as always. Hans followed closely with his short legs and gave Roman his robe. "I heard you had a hard time on the southern front. Did you get hurt? You don't know how much my heart shook when I heard the news. Still, I am glad you are safe." "I'm fine." "Are you certain?" Hans asked with tears in his eyes. This young man was seriously such a good person. And a few days later, Roman heard something unexpected from Hans. "Young master, I might be stepping out of line, but could you please meet young Master Lauren?" Hans arrived at the capital before Roman. As he was in the accommodation given by the royal family in advance, he suddenly met someone. "Young Master Lauren?" "Hans." It was Lauren Dmitri. He entered the estate with a youthful face, lingered around Hans, and asked a few things. At first, it was about how the family was. Hans, who raised both young masters since they were young, could tell at a glance, young Master Lauren is going through some trouble. So he waited for him to tell him about it. After a long, meaningless conversation, Lauren Dmitri spoke in a cautious voice. "Hans, please feel free to speak your mind," Hans said with a smile. "Did anything special happen to Brother Roman when I was away?" "No, Brother Roman never had any interest in swordsmanship, but now I just saw him return to the capital, being escorted by guards. According to the people, Brother Roman defeated a ranker of the Hector kingdom." He hesitated a lot when speaking. He didn't believe it. Despite witnessing it with his own eyes and hearing it himself, Lauren Dmitri couldn't accept that Roman had changed. Hans answered. "A lot of things happened to young Master Roman when young Master Lauren left. I think that rumors must have spread too. The marriage with the Lawrence house was broken off, and a war was waged by the Barco house. He defeated Homer, and this time he went to the southern front and made impossible things happen. The people who knew young Master Roman might think of it as a lie, but all of that isn't filled with even an inch of a lie. Thanks to the changed path of young Master Roman, Lord Romero has been happy these days. Why not meet him in person instead of talking like this? I heard that he would come here in the evening. If you meet him in person, you will be able to see how he has changed." At Hans's suggestion, Lauren averted his gaze. "No, it is fine." He had a puzzled expression. He said he was fine, but he was constantly observing Hans' reaction and was hesitating to say something else. Finally, Lauren didn't state his purpose. Hesitating till the end, he left and told Hans he had work to do. Hans had been with Dmitri for many years. Most of the time, he had devoted himself to Roman, but over the years, he knew the inclinations and behaviors of the other young masters too. Something is wrong. Lauren Dmitri was a gentle-hearted person. The three sons of Dmitri were born with different characters. Hans noticed it. If Lauren Dmitri had come to visit him, he must have been going through something serious. So he looked into it. It seems like young Master Lauren is being bullied by his classmates at the academy. Even in the old days, young Master Lauren would fall down and break his knee or scrape it, but not once had he said anything about being in pain. However, such a person came to me and asked about you, young Master Roman. I think he wanted to ask for help, but I didn't have the liberty to ask what the problem was. Loren Dmitri, he is the youngest among us. I don't have to take care of him just because he is a younger brother. Baek Jung-hyuk was cruel to his brothers and killed anyone who threatened his life while he was ascending to the top. On the contrary, he readily accepted new connections, like Hans and Baron Romero, who gave him positive feelings. He wanted to meet Loren so he could judge him in person. Just because he had Dimitri's name, Roman had no plans of helping Loren. I understand. I will meet him. Young master! Hans smiled broadly. Roman thought that since this was Hans' request, he would grant it. While Roman was resting, someone was taking action. Recruiting Roman Dmitri has been postponed indefinitely. However, there is still a way to score points from Baron. It was Count Fabius. He tried to get Roman on his side, but he couldn't believe what Roman said at the feast. Due to this, he came up with a new plan. People are all recruiting Roman Dmitri, but in fact, his subordinates are also formidable. It was frustrating at first. Dmitri is a family on the outskirts, and it is hard to find people as talented as them, even in the capital. If we can convince them, Marquis Benedict will surely be pleased. Count Fabius carefully observed the battlefield during the war. As soon as the order to help Roman was issued, his men slaughtered the enemies with an overwhelming force. Well, if I hadn't gone to the southern frontline myself, I wouldn't have known that, though. They are definitely worth recruiting. If I manage to bring Chris and all the other subordinates of Roman to our side, I just might be able to gain the trust of the Marquis sooner. It was like killing two birds with one stone. He kept smiling and thought his plan was perfect. Roman gave Chris and his men a vacation. After the fierce war, they were all entitled to be paid and have some time to enjoy themselves. So the soldiers went their separate ways and enjoyed their break. Chris remained on the training ground alone. It was impossible for him to rest when he thought about the war. When I first met the Lord, he was clearly someone I could reach. So I promised myself that I would surpass him in a very short time, but in the same short time, the Lord managed to reach a different level than me. The battle with Butler was shocking. For most people, it was common sense for Roman to lose, but Chris believed that Roman would win, and as expected, Butler was brutally defeated. He was a 5-star swordsman, which the Hector kingdom was proud of. Such a man lost against Roman Dmitri, who wasn't much different from him half a year ago. How was that possible? He tried to understand it, but he couldn't think of an answer. What is certain is that I am developing rapidly with the Lord. I just need to look at the back of my Lord and follow him. I also experienced tremendous growth in the last half year. I still don't understand the situation I am in. The Lord is showing a speedy development which makes no sense, and all the knowledge he tells me is priceless. His choice was right. He was convinced that he could develop much more by following Roman Dmitri, and he didn't want to stop at the little growth that he had. He knew the moment he showed negligence, Roman Dmitri would head into a world beyond his reach. The goal was to defeat him utterly. So, even though everyone had left for their vacation, he stayed behind at the training ground and swung his sword. And it was then. "Are you Chris?" It was a familiar voice. He turned his head. Count Fabius was looking at Chris with a friendly smile. There was no reason to drag the conversation any longer, so Count Fabius just stated his purpose. "I want to hire you, Chris. If you come to our side." "No need." Chris refused without even listening the full offer. He abruptly stopped talking. Fabius's face was contorted. "No, you didn't even listen to it. Well, I am acquainted with Marquis Benedict, the head of the nobles and the central government. Living in the Cairo kingdom, you cannot imagine how a great opportunity this is. This is your chance to change your life. What do you want? Money? Mr. Chris, we can give you money enough for you to live for the rest of your life. Honor? There is no other greater honor than serving Marquis Benedict in the Cairo kingdom. If you wish to become a noble in the future, the Marquis will personally grant you a title. Just say anything. There is nothing we cannot offer you in Cairo." Count Fabius continued. "If you are concerned about betraying Roman Dmitri, Do not worry about that. Roman Dimitri will always be a follower of Marquis Benedict. We are going to make sure that it happens. Would it be a problem if he joined us early? This is only a matter of precedence. Will you follow Roman Dimitri later and come to us, or join hands now and earn our trust? That is the difference. Chris snickered at Count Fabius's proposal. If this was half a year ago, maybe there was a chance, but now, his mind wouldn't accept anything else. How are you sure that my lord will come to Marquis Benedict? Isn't that obvious? Even in the Hector kingdom, no one can deny that man's power. It was funny that Count Fabius knew nothing about Roman Dimitri. The man Chris had been following wasn't the type to bow his head. Even if he had to join hands with a compromise, he would rather risk war than bow to someone. Chris was sure of Roman's statements that he would rise to the top of the continent. So the words of Count Fabius were wrong. Chris said, "No matter what the conditions are, I have no intention to leave the side of my lord. You say Marquis Benedict can do a lot for me, but I assure you that no one can give me another lord." With Roman's teachings and new worldly knowledge, he couldn't measure the value of what he had already received. Above all, Chris didn't want to make a choice that would disappoint Roman. What if Roman didn't choose Marquis Benedict? If you say that, well... He took a step back. He wanted to express his fury and insist, but attacking the people of Roman without a plan wasn't good. While taking a few steps, Chris added, "If you want to convince my other colleagues, then just give up. No one will make a choice against the will of our Lord." Until then, Count Fabius really had no intention of listening to Chris. Chris was right. The next target was Kevin. Seeing him move like a ghost on the battlefield, he made the same suggestion. "But do not ever make such offers to me again. To me, my lord is everything in life. If the Lord says he will follow Marquis Benedict, I will lay my life down for him, but if I turn my back on him and force him to choose someone else, I'd rather just wish for death. Do not test me." He was pretty aggressive. Just the thought of Roman made the guy suppress his anger, and Kevin seemed quite annoyed at the offer. It didn't end there. The next targets were Pookie and Vulcan. They were mercenaries that shocked everyone, including him, with their exceptional skills. "Has this been discussed with the Lord? I have no intention of making a choice against my lord. So I will pretend that this conversation never happened. Count Fabius, I am very well aware of your condition. However, if we hadn't met our lord, we would be nothing, so we cannot imagine ever betraying him." Fabius made it clear to them that it wouldn't be a betrayal. Even though he told them it was just a matter of time before Roman joined, no one wanted to accept his offer. Finally, he thought that Henderson, the most common of the men, would react nicely, but the guy simply covered his ears and avoided his gaze. He completely ignored him and didn't respond to anything he said. "Why are you so loyal?" Suddenly he felt more curious about this man called Roman. At that time, Lauren Dimitri was still training during his break. He clenched his teeth and struck at the dummy. He was projecting William Castro's image onto the dummy, and unlike the practice match, he was able to accurately aim for the vital points. He made clean and neat attacks. In real life, he was a mess, but in virtual battles like this, Lauren Dimitri had fairly strong sword movements. He was so busy training that even though the sun began to set, he didn't stop. He was out of breath. He remembered Han's words. "How can I lie to the young master? Thanks to young Master Roman's changed behavior, Lord Romero has been happy lately." Among those words, the one about his father being happy stuck in his mind. What happened to Brother Roman? Lauren trusted Hans. Hans wasn't a liar and knew Roman Dimitri better than anyone, so such rumors could not be false. But there was a limit to how much change people could accept. The Roman whom Lauren remembered was an irreparable idiot, and now his reputation, which has changed, was the polar opposite. Cairo's hero, the youngest ranker, and the genius swordsman who defeated Butler, it didn't make sense. If Rodwell Dimitri had done this, he might have simply accepted it, but this was Roman. Brother Roman was able to change. Then why am I still pathetic? Maybe Lauren once thought that he was better than Roman. It was okay to fall behind because there was the trash of the Dmitri family behind him, but he was now the pathetic underdog. He swung the sword. His arms were trembling, yet he forced them to move. Then, he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Lauren Dmitri lay down as he gulped down his cries while looking up at the dummy, imagining William. Just as pathetic as I've always been. He swung his wooden sword one last time with full force. After that he was so tired that he laid on the training ground breathing heavily. His face was sweating due to training. What are you doing here? He heard a familiar yet unfamiliar voice. Lauren Dmitri raised his head and saw his brother, who looked different from what he remembered. There was no need to explain the circumstances. He was the typical figure of a loser. Roman said with no warmth in his voice. I heard from Hans that you had come to find me. If you have something to say, say it now. He answered. It was nothing. Lauren avoided his gaze. The situation was embarrassing for him. His face flushed red when he thought Roman had watched him as he struggled to overcome reality. Pathetic boy. Roman took a step back as he spat those words. He had no intention of helping Lauren. At the sight of Roman, who was about to leave, Lauren regretted it, and for a moment, without even thinking about it, Lauren shouted. Brother Roman! I will tell you why I came to see you, brother. I will tell you everything. He finally mustered up some courage to reveal his shameful condition. Roman stopped walking and looked at Lauren. Lauren said, I overheard people talking about the rumors that brother defeated the Hector kingdom and saved the southern front. I didn't quite believe it at first. The brother I remember wasn't interested in swordsmanship, and in the first place, even if he were asked to go for military duty, he would avoid it. Was it a year ago? But while we didn't meet, you changed. The Roman Dmitri, who was in a similar situation to me, has disappeared and been reborn into a new being called Cairo's hero. How can you be this different? I am aware of my brother and myself. It is well known that people from the outskirts do not have the same talent as Brother Rodwell and do not achieve success. At the very least, my brother and I were the types of people who couldn't live up to the expectations of those around us. He found it hard to talk about his feelings for the first time. The emotions that he had bottled up for a long time overflowed. I am the shy kind. I followed my brother Rodwell to the capital to live up to my father's expectations, but I couldn't do anything until he was promoted to Class S. I also want to be a son that my father is proud of. Always pretending to be fine and pretending to be good, it isn't that I am forced to smile, but I really want to show some results. He cried with his head bowed and shoulders dropping in a sorrowful manner. It was a look that even the original Roman wouldn't have expected. Lauren cried for a long time. He was a sensitive child. He was still 18 years old and wasn't ready to handle the weight of reality. How should I treat Lauren? A new life. The people in this place have accepted the new Roman. They decided to not hand out Roman's old image and decided to give him a second chance. Just as other people accepted his new self, he didn't discriminate against the new relationship they now had. I have no feelings for Lauren. The same goes for Rodwell. The identity of the eldest and second son is always complicated, but even so, it isn't good to be hostile to Rodwell. Lauren or Rodwell, my evaluation of them will be based on my own experience and not on the original memories. This was Roman's way of living a new life. It was a new standard. Since this life wasn't originally his, Roman showed tolerance for accepting a new life. Lauren. Yes? He called his sibling. Still, he had no affection for him. Just because he had gone through the same hardships as Roman, there was no need to give him special care. But I don't want to see people with the same last name as I ignored. That would undermine the reputation of the family and mine. You said you were wondering how I got to where I am. If you want an answer, prove that you are worthy of knowing. I heard that there would be a swordsmanship test soon. In that test, show what happens when one ignores the name Lauren Dmitri. For once, he gave him a chance. Unlike in his previous life, where his siblings were killed for having the same last name, Roman gave Lauren a chance. It was up to him now. If he proved himself, he would accept him as his brother. But if he didn't, there would not be many opportunities to talk to Roman in the future. The time had come for the swordsmanship test. The students gathered at the training ground, and the professor looked at their faces before proceeding with the test. I was told to prove myself if I want an answer. It was strange. His head felt clear. It had been a long time since he had felt this way. Even though he didn't get any answers, his mind felt at peace. I'm starting the test right now. First, the students, who were called one after another, competed against each other. Happiness was divided. Some rejoiced, and some were saddened. How much time had passed before the professor turned to Lauren? Lauren! He got up and... William! He faced his opponent. Even as William Castro got up with a smile, Lauren didn't feel the least bit anxious. Life sure is funny to be put up against you again. I will make sure to crush you thoroughly this time. The Castro family was the elite of the central government. William Castro's father was a supporter of nobles, and having lived in the capital from a young age, he had been elite. There was something his father always said. It was that a person had a limit since birth, and their use was determined based on where they were born. The professor said, "The evaluation criteria for the test isn't victory or defeat. We will evaluate how well the teachings have melted into your body, so refrain from making extreme attacks. Now then, I will start the test." The signal was given. As soon as the test started, William Castro aimed at him, and there was no time to think. Lauren couldn't even respond to normal attacks, so he decided to end this with a bold move. The attack was blocked. Lauren raised his sword. His expression was distorted due to the overwhelming physical difference. Even though he could block the attack, it wasn't easy for his body to take in the shock of the attack. William Castro didn't stop and said, "I will end you." He continued to attack, and Lauren got pushed. It was an overwhelming power. There was no way Lauren, the weakest person here, could handle William's attack. This was expected. Not once did he fight back. William Castro backed his opponent into a corner, and immediately saw that Lauren's stance was off. "It is over." His chest was open. He was thinking of hitting him down. If any bones were broken, Lauren wouldn't think about staying in the academy any longer. He lowered his sword. And it was then that Lauren tilted his head forward. Even though the wooden sword would hit his head at this rate, he looked up at William Castro while remembering Roman words. Lauren clenched his teeth at the tense situation. At the same time, he swung the sword with his full power toward William's face. Lauren managed to hit William Castro in the jaw. If you want to know if William got what he deserved or if Lauren get beaten once more, you should subscribe and comment for next part.